Is that a Sketchbox? Premium, I swear. Hello and welcome back to Jenna Gets Creative, and welcome back to the No Box Art Box Challenge. I can't believe I forgot to do one in February, but don't worry, I haven't forgot about the series. Today we're tackling the March 2021 Premium Sketchbox, though I'll mention what was in the basic box as well, and I'll do my calculation breakdowns for both in the description box. If you're not familiar with the No Box Art Box Challenge, this is a challenge you can do to experience the challenge and experimentation of an art supply box without actually buying it, and there are so many reasons to do it. Maybe you can't afford it right now, or you're already subscribed to a different one and you can't afford multiple subscriptions. Maybe you want to get a sense of what the boxes are like before you buy. Maybe they don't ship to your country. Maybe you're interested in a past box that isn't being sold anymore. Or maybe you're like me, you've got too many random assorted supplies from these boxes already and you've put your subscription on pause, but you missed the challenge. Whatever the reason, the No Box Art Box Challenge is simple. Step 1. Pick any art or craft subscription box, pick a month that already shipped, and look at what was in it. Step 2. Match the supplies as close as you can using items you already own. Exact matches are fine as long as you aren't replicating a box you actually got. In that case, pick the next closest match so it's still a replication challenge. Step 3. Make art using only the items you matched for the box. If the original box had a challenge prompt or theme, try to stick to it. Only add missing essentials such as a pencil or a piece of paper. If you share your creations, use the hashtag NoBoxArtBox, all one word, and feel free to tag me or drop a link in the comments on any of my videos. If you make a YouTube video for the challenge, I'll add you to my playlist. You don't have to do this exact box or any of the exact boxes I've done before, just follow the 3 steps I outlined on any month's box from any subscription service. As usual, I'll be running through what came in the actual box and what I've replaced it with, then I'll talk about the piece I created and what I think of the supply combination. Since Sketchbox is an American company, all prices will be MSRPs in US dollars, but I'll have that converted to Canadian and Great British pounds in the description box down below. I'll also list real-world sale prices where I can find them, and I'll do all the calculation work so you can see if this box would have been worth the subscription price to you. The March 2021 Sketchbox offerings are all about alcohol-based illustration markers, and yes, that includes the coveted Copic markers. Both tiers got a custom marker set from Marabou Graphics and a Spectra AD marker pad, so let's talk about those first. The Marabou marker pack came with 4 blendable alcohol markers and 2 non-blendable permanent markers, and the menu card claims that it has a MSRP value of $17.50 US. All of those markers are double-ended with a broad or chisel tip on one end and a fine or bullet nib on the other. PSA: don't type the word bullet in the comments. Someone always does every time I say this just to see, but I also do see notifications from serious comments with the word bullet, and those disappear. YouTube filters that word. They don't go to spam, they're just gone. It's a banned word. The moderation bots can't handle the nuance on context to understand that we're talking about art supplies. But anyway, the 4 blendable alcohol markers are a colorless blender plus 3 colors in red, pink, and violet. I can't find actual color names for them, and I think the markers are only labeled with numbers, so we'll go with those exact words for the color names. To replicate that, I'm using a Copic blender purely because I know that one's full. I have blender ink refills. And for the colors, I've pulled those exact plain color names from my Spectra AD collection. These are brush and chisel nib markers, so actually a step up from the Marabou ones, but I don't feel like pulling out my super cheap touch markers just to have the fine nibs. I figured this substitution is fair because the premium box does actually have a couple from this brand anyway. For the non-blendable markers, you could use colored Sharpies or imitation brands, but I'm going to use some of my Tombow ABT markers. The Marabou permanent markers were sent in a medium green and a warm brown. I have a very limited selection in the ABT markers, so I'm using P296, which is definitely green, and P757, which is more of a rusty red. To be fair, I don't have a brown in Sharpie either. And before anyone says the Tombow ABT markers are supposed to be blendable, go check out the video where I unboxed the Art Snacks exclusive box that sent these. They're Sharpies with a Tombow brush nib. The paper is a 24-sheet 4x6 inch pad of Spectra AD marker paper, and this pad has an MSRP value of $8.49 US. This is a 175 GSM coated marker paper, and I was a little stumped on which option to use to replicate this. At first I thought my Strathmore marker pad would be perfect, and I do have a tiny version from an old Sketchbox, but the demonstration videos for this month's boxes showed the paper being a bit more slow drying than I know the Strathmore marker paper is. Another nice option would have been my Copic marker paper in a coil-bound sketch pad that size, but this paper is much thinner and actually isn't as bleed-proof as most marker papers. This pad came with a removable plastic sheet at the back to move around as you work through it. What I settled on was a piece of Express-It blending card from a small sample pack, so it's still the right size range. This is the king of thick coated marker paper, and other than getting a plastic fiber paper like Yupo, you're not going to find a more slow drying paper than this. Both types of boxes got Copic markers, but different. The premium box got 2 markers, a sketch in V12 Pale Lilac and an original in V15 Mallow. I'll show what those 2 types of Copic markers look like on screen, but I actually have these 2 shades in Chow's, so that's what I'll be using. Both the sketch and Chow have a brush and chisel nib combination, while the originals have the fine and chisel nibs. Both the original and sketch markers have an MSRP of $7.99 US each, and Chow's are $5.49 US. The basic box also gets to play with Copic V12 Pale Lilac, but in a Chow, so for the basic box this is an exact match. Basic didn't get the second Copic shade. Premium boxes also got a pair of Spectra AD markers, as I mentioned, in the shades Walnut and Wine, and these markers are $5.60 each US. Walnut is a light warm brown and Wine is slightly darker with a bit of a purple cast to it. Although I have a bunch of Spectra AD markers, I didn't have either of those shades. For Walnut, I'm using a Winsor & Newton Pro Marker brush in the shade 0837 Praline. And for the Wine shade, I'm using a Copic Chow in E04 Lipstick Natural. By the way, if you like Spectra AD markers and you want to save even more, and you're in a shipping location where Dick Blick would be a good option, Blick Studio brush markers are exactly the same thing. Same barrels, same color names and numbers, same range of colors offered, and Blick offers ink refills. Instead of the Spectra markers, the basic box got a Le Plume alcohol marker in the shade V754 Soft Violet, and this is a single-ended brush marker. The shade is similar to, but lighter than, the Copic shade the basic box isn't getting. Le Plume alcohol markers list for $2.99 US MSRP. In the Sketchbox School demonstration videos for the 2 boxes, their featured artist did a still life painting in a very painterly style with a lot of blending on top blending and using the non-blendable markers on top for added details. I decided to use the red, pink, and violet markers from the Marabou set to do a gradient in the background of this piece and use the rest of the markers on the subject, which in this case is an ordinary house cat. I love alcohol markers, you see me using them all the time on this channel, and these are mostly brands I already own and use. I own a lot of other Marabou graphics items too, just not the alcohol markers, because the Canadian chain I order my supplies from hasn't picked those up yet. This combination with the ABT markers could be a great way to actually get use out of those, since I wasn't impressed with them for what they're advertised to be, but a little finishing details, or as a base that isn't meant to blend out, they're perfect. The demo video also made liberal use of the blender marker, and Winsor Newton ink doesn't play the nicest when layered directly with Copics and Spectras, so I chose to use that one mostly in the tip-to-tip method to transfer ink onto the blender for a more dilute color. This is what chameleon markers and pens are doing, by the way. They're just blending ink tip to tip. There's no need to buy their expensive long markers and the little blending caps that can't be used as their own markers. Just get regular alcohol markers and hold them tip to tip yourself. I've applied a color to the blender pen, but you can do one color onto another too. For anyone who already has and works with alcohol markers, this box is a limited palette exercise that may or may not introduce you to brands you haven't tried yet. For anyone who's new to alcohol markers, this is a great exposure to the medium with a nice palette that works together. What do you think? Would this box have been worth it for you? Remember, prices and calculations are in the description box down below. If you're looking for more to watch, I've got some suggestions up on the left side of the screen now. Don't forget to like, comment, maybe even subscribe, and if you like living life creatively, whatever that means to you, I'd love to have you along for the ride. Bye guys!